Hey guys, this is Liz Barnett. I'm a fitness and food coach based in northern New Jersey and the New York City area. This is an Instagram live, so I'm going to give people a few minutes, or a few moments, I should say, to hop on. In the meantime, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself and what I'm going to be chatting about today. So as I mentioned, I'm a fitness and food coach. I do have certifications in personal training and various types of modalities, as well as my health coaching certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And the reason I call myself a fitness and food coach versus like a personal trainer or a nutritionist is, first and foremost, I work with people as a coach to help you make healthy not so hard. So whether that means with exercise or diet or lifestyle modifications, I'm really trying to help you sort of hone in on what's going to be the biggest actions you can take to give you the most results. I work with people one-on-one, in groups, in person, in studios, and anywhere. So over Skype, phone, so on and so forth. With that being said, and with the intention of trying to make healthy not so hard, that's why I started this WTF Wednesday. It's my opportunity to connect with you and talk a little bit more at length about certain topics that are really popular or gaining popularity in the health and wellness industry. So a lot of the times I'm doing some myth busting. Last week I talked about the celery juice craze, but a lot of times I'm just kind of offering information, research, and just giving you an opportunity to kind of get some more in depth in certain topics, and then that way you can make a decision in terms of like if you want to explore it further, if you think it might be for you. It goes without saying, if I haven't worked with you, right, you should always consult the advice of a healthcare practitioner or someone who is, certified and credentialed, whatever it is that we might be talking about. I'm happy to answer questions and direct you in any way I can, so feel free to shoot me a message or an email. These IG lives that I do, I know everybody can't make it, so I do repost them, so they're available for you for 24 hours, and then I do a little synopsis on my blog, on my website, which is www.lizbarnett.com. And I'll include this video as well as kind of any links or details. Today's WTF Wednesday is all about a really close to my heart topic, adaptogens. You may or may not have heard about them. Adaptogens are, you might even not have heard of the word adaptogen, but you might use adaptogens or have heard of the individual one. So I do want to kind of dive into what that is, and I have lots of examples here on my desk of adaptogens that I have tried or that I use and what they're good for. So just keep in mind, I do have notes on my computer behind you here, so if I'm looking away, that's what I'm looking at. So first of all, what is an adaptogen? And I think it's important to understand or see the word adapt, right? Adaptogens are various herbs, or it's a category of herbs, that help the human body adapt to stress, support normal metabolic processes, and restore balance. They increase the body's resistance to physical, biological, emotional, and environmental stressors and promote normal physiologic function. That last little piece, normal physiologic function, I think is really important. Before I go any further, I do have to give a shout out to this book. I'll link it on my website. It's called Adaptogens, Herbs for Strength, Stamina, and Stress Relief. And it's by two herbalist experts. This book is like a treasure trove of information. It is science-based, but it's also really easy to read and comprehensive and comprehensible. And I got a lot of the information that I'm going to share today from this book. I think, like with any other health trend, information gets diluted along the way as it's shared, and I think it's important to kind of go to the experts. I am not an expert on adaptogens. I'm just sharing my research and my personal experience. Anyway, like I said, it's a category of herbs. And if you're someone who's a little apprehensive about things like herbs or, hippy dippy natural stuff, I think it's important to acknowledge that herbal medicine is one of the most ancient forms of healthcare known to man, right? It's been around a lot longer than, Prilosec and various sort of, prescription or over-the-counter medications. 75% of the world's population currently depends on botanical medicine, and that's according to the World Health Organization. And 25% of modern medicines are still made from the plants that were first used for traditional medicine, right? So if you followed me for a while, I do feel that plants are full of various sort of powers. I don't think they're necessarily magical or supernatural or anything like that, but there's a lot that can be taken away from, incorporating more plants into your life, whether that's through diet or otherwise. Most of these medicines, these sort of traditional medicines, have been used either in Ayurveda, which is the traditional Indian form of medicine from the country India, as well as traditional Chinese medicine from China. I think that says something, right? These forms of medicine have been around for a very long time, much longer than modern medicine. That gives it a rich history and a strong credibility to their use and effectiveness. The Chinese and the Indians are the ones that have most used plants in their medicines for the longest time. And they're currently the largest group of people. Approximately 500 species of plants are listed as official drugs in China, and 60% of registered physicians in India are involved in sort of these kinds of different medicines, options of medicine. And this is all coming from that adaptogen book. Also really popular and where there's been a lot of research done is Germany and Russia and even the United States. There is a good amount of research on using plants as medicine. But what happens is then the pharmaceutical companies kind of swoop in and they try to isolate what that one little compound they think is that is, doing all the good work. And that's not really how this works. A lot of these plants are so therapeutic because of how the different components work in concert together. And I think that's really important to realize. Going back to adaptogens specifically, they all display effects that help to regulate the neuroendocrine and immune systems. They provide defenses against stress, and they increase the ability of a person to maintain optimal homeostasis. And that goes back to what I sort of highlighted before about normal physiologic function and keeping your body in balance, right? A lot of things that we perceive as problems or health conditions is really just some sort of imbalance in your body. And that's how, if you've ever had acupuncture or ever worked with an Ayurvedic practitioner, a lot of their work, it's not like, let me give you this drug to fix this problem. It's like, okay, what's out of balance and how can we bring the body back into balance? And those are two sort of systems that speak very strongly to me. So in order to be categorized as an adaptogen, in addition to being an actual plant or coming from a plant, there are 3 criteria that have been identified. 1, it has to be non-toxic to the recipient. I think that's huge, right? So long story short, there's very few things I say this about, but adaptogens are one of the things that for most people, even if it maybe doesn't work or doesn't help you, it's not going to harm you. That's based on all the research and the criteria. Second piece of criteria, it produces a non-specific response in the body. So it's not meant to cure something. It's not going to, make this cold go away, but it's going to help you come back into balance so your body can naturally fight the cold, for example. And also, an adaptogen has to have a normalizing influence on physiology, irrespective of the direction of the stressor. So, meaning, sometimes you take a certain drug and it's supposed to lower your blood pressure, for example, right? Whereas you might take an adaptogen and it doesn't specifically lower your blood pressure, it helps bring your blood pressure back to a healthy balance, whether it's high or low. So I think that's super interesting. The adaptogens come from the roots, very often the roots, the stems, the seeds, the fruit of plants, as well as from mushrooms, which is one of my favorite categories of adaptogens. There's a ton of research being done on mushrooms right now. Interestingly, from a scientific perspective, most, if not all, adaptogens have antioxidant properties. And they also may have properties that protect your liver, your heart. They could be protective against the effects of chemotherapy or radiation therapy. And they actually may have anti-cancer effects, so, helping you prevent getting cancer. And then finally, they're often have anti-inflammatory effects. So those are some pretty cool things from some little plants. It's important, again, to know that the effect of an adaptogen is, you can consider it sort of broad spectrum, meaning it's not going to attack just one thing. It's not going to address one thing. It's going to just bring everything into balance. I think it's so cool. So many of these adaptogens, people really don't realize this, they grow in the craziest of conditions, like in the Himalayas. Think about in China and India, right? They grow in high altitude, people have to go on crazy mountains to pick them, or in really harsh weather. And so that just makes a lot of sense to me, that if these plants have sort of survived through these harsh conditions, maybe they might have some properties that are protective as well. The best science-based explanation, which I don't really hear that much when people talk about adaptogens, of how they work. They act by stimulating the body's non-specific stress response via the HPA axis. And I'm going to break that down. So non-specific stress response, meaning it's not just one, your body doesn't react to just one way, right? So how it's going to react to that stress. And the HPA axis, if you're not familiar, is the hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis. And it's kind of where those 3 systems meet, as well as the sympathoadrenal system. So all those words, what you can take away from that is the word hormones. It helps balance your hormones. it does that by stimulating the neuroendocrine and immune systems via multiple metabolic pathways. So again, it's like not such a direct straight shot. It's not such like if then A, B, and C. It's kind of, it's a little bit more fluid than that. Okay, so that's all about adaptogens. What are some common adaptogens? What are adaptogens? What are they used for? And what are the most well-researched ones? So from, again, this book that I got all my research from, here's a list of the most commonly known and used adaptogens. First of all, American ginseng. There's also Asian ginseng, but American ginseng, and that's known as a mild central nervous system stimulant, and it also is nourishing to that HPA axis. You have ashwagandha, which is one of my favorites. It's calming, it has antihistamine properties, and it's also anti-inflammatory. Cordyceps is a mushroom, and the research says it's good for lung and kidneys and the immune system, and as well as energy. So that energy aspect I added because I see in a lot of these products that you buy that cordyceps is used for energy. So I just think that's interesting that the research says one thing and then, maybe it's edited a little bit in terms of a marketing perspective. We're still talking about adaptogens here. I'm just starting to go through the list. Remember, if you've missed any of this, you can always rewatch the replay, and I'll be posting this on my website as well. So in addition to ginseng and ashwagandha, you have cordyceps, which I mentioned, and erythro, which is considered an immune tonic, an adrenal tonic. It's good for fatigue or preventing fatigue, and it's good for performance. So often you might see something with cordyceps and erythro together. So interesting. Heishu Wu or Heishu Wu, a Chinese herb. It supports the liver, the kidneys, and the blood, and according to our experts here, is great for the male reproductive system. I am sounding a little sarcastic because I find that amusing because I see Heishu Wu or Heishu Wu very often in sort of female-oriented products, in beauty products, or in things that are supposed to be good for the female hormonal system. So again, I haven't dove into why that is, but I just think it's interesting that like traditionally it's used for one thing and then currently it might be used for another thing. Maybe that's based on research, maybe it's not. Holy basil or tulsi, one of my favorite adaptogens, that is good for supporting normal blood sugar as well as your cortisol levels. Cortisol is your stress hormone. Cortisol itself is not bad, we need it, but chronically elevated, or some people call it deranged cortisol, is something that is a side effect of stress, constant stress, and not something that you want. Another adaptogen, believe it or not, is licorice. It's known for immune benefits as well as healing the stomach and bowel. That might not be that surprising. There's a compound called DGL, which you can get, that's very soothing to your stomach, and it's made from licorice. Reishi mushroom is known for its benefits on immunity and for calming the mind. Rhodiola is good for the immune system, and it's also cardioprotective. It's good for your heart. Schizandra balances the nervous system. It's an antioxidant, and it's also protective for the liver. There's a bunch of other herbs that are not technically categorized as adaptogens, and I didn't go into why each of them individually or not, but they're often considered adaptogens, and that includes amla, astragalus, shatavari, sea buckthorn, maca, which I'll talk about today, and goji berries. So those are some adaptogens that you've heard of. I'm going to just quickly go through how you can include adaptogens in your life and some different products that I've tried before. So the first and foremost way is to include them sort of straight up. You can get them kind of just single compound or single ingredient, I should say. This is ashwagandha from a pretty popular company for adaptogens called Sun Potion. And I don't know if you can see here, but like this is what adaptogens look like. They're like brown powders a lot of the time. They don't always smell good. They don't always taste great. And you would add this to water or tea, or you can add this to food. I also keep on hand maca here. It's important that your maca, if you're going to include it, is gelatinized. It makes it more able for your body to be processed. Maca is interesting. It's good for balancing female hormones. It's something I'm working with right now, along with the guidance of my doctor and my health coach. And it's got this like nutty mapley flavor. So this is definitely one of the more palatable ones. My resource did not name turmeric as an adaptogen, but many people do refer to turmeric as an adaptogen. If there's anything that is a superfood, it's probably turmeric. It's what comes and gives curry this color. It's really great for immunity, and it's anti-inflammatory. What's important though, as I was mentioning, a lot of these adaptogens, they come within plants, and all the different pieces of the whole are what make it most effective. In order for turmeric to be really well processed, you need to combine it with black pepper and with fat, right? So just taking a spoonful of this, which is not really good, is not going to give you the benefits as if you had it with black pepper and along with some fat. And just think about it. If you're having a curry, right, what do you often put in there? Some sort of pepper, coconut milk, and sort of just using adaptogens as part of your cooking might be, easier for you, easier for your lifestyle, but also more beneficial. So sort of like buying your adaptogens in powdered form is one way to do it. The thing that I'm seeing is really popular here is kind of like little packages of adaptogens and other sort of ingredients put together. So Four Sigmatic is a really popular company for mushrooms. I have a few of their products here. This is their golden latte mushroom mix, and it does have turmeric in it as well as coconut milk powder and some shiitake mushrooms. Shiitake mushrooms is another one that kind of falls under the adaptogen property, as well as some tulsi and black pepper and a couple other things, right? So you're getting a lot here in one little packet. The downside with things like this is this can be expensive, and it's obviously a single-use sort of product, so it creates a little bit more waste. But if this is more convenient for you, and if you feel, if you feel like it's more of like a nice ritual to be able to, say, drink a turmeric golden latte, then that might be more beneficial for you. Also from Four Sigmatic, I have their mushroom matcha drink mix, and this is a matcha powder, green tea, but it also has lion's mane, which is another mushroom, and ginger in here. And so lion's mane is for focus, and ginger is for health and immunity. So kind of combining these things into different sort of products, frankly, is one way that adaptogens are getting sort of more well known. And then finally, I actually really like this product that's from Wild One. It's immune shrooms, and a lot of these adaptogens and a lot of the mushrooms are supposed to be very good for your immune system. This is something that actually tastes really good. I've been having it at night with hot water and a little almond milk, and it's kind of like a cocoa powder, even though it's not supposed to necessarily taste like that. But this has a bunch of mushrooms in it. It has chaga, reishi, which I mentioned, turkey tail, shiitake, and maitake, as well as an adaptogen blend, which includes ashwagandha, astragalus, licorice, right? So these blends are something you're often going to see. The issue is with a lot of these different adaptogens, it's just you don't know individually how much you need to take, like what's a therapeutic dose. A lot of it's trial and error. Again, it's unlikely that you're going to harm yourself, but like maybe you're just wasting your time and your money. So it might be worth seeking out either, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner or an Ayurvedic practitioner, or even like a health coach or a functional medicine doctor or practice that might have more experience with this. Last one I just wanted to share. I haven't even tried it yet. I just thought this was so cool. This is Rasa coffee I got when I was in Boulder, and it has a whole bunch of adaptogens in it, and this is meant as kind of like a coffee replacement. So I think this would be great in the afternoon when you're used to your little normal afternoon pick-me-up. This has eleuthero, shatavari, heishu wu, ashwagandha, chaga, rhodiola, cinnamon, reishi, lots of different stuff in here. I can't speak to its taste, but I do think from an industry perspective, you're going to just keep seeing a lot more and more of these kinds of things. And then the final way that I think is maybe the most convenient to take adaptogens, at least for me, is, in a pill form, to be frank, because I don't necessarily want to sprinkle ashwagandha, on my soup, or I don't want to drink a smoothie. And for me, this tends to be a little bit more doable. One product I absolutely swear by, I've been taking this for several years. It's from Onnit. It is their Immune Tech mushroom blend, and it has chaga, astragalus, cordyceps, reishi, on and on and on. There's ginger in here. I swear that this, along with a few other things, is the only reason I haven't gotten full on sick this winter. I have a little bit of a sore throat right now and a cold. I think I didn't get enough sleep, but I haven't gotten full on sick, and I swear by that. So a couple other examples. I am taking maca, and this is just basically 3 different kinds of maca together in a pill, and this is much easier for me to take than trying to figure out how to add maca to a bunch of things that I'm eating. And you can usually find these more common, these more popular ones in pill form if you need to. I got a lot more in here, but I'm not going to get into it. If you have questions about adaptogens, if you've tried adaptogens yourself, if you need some more help with resources, remember, I'm going to be posting this on my blog, www.lizbarnett.com/blog. You can always DM me. I'm here to help. And I think the biggest takeaway is adaptogens are something I feel strongly about incorporating if it makes sense into your lifestyle. I don't think they're going to harm you. I do think it's important to incorporate them wisely and consider that they're not a panacea. They're not going to fix everything. If your lifestyle sucks, if you're eating like crap and you're not sleeping enough, immune shrooms are not going to fix that, right? So you do have to kind of try to get to the source of whatever might be, your ailment, if you have one. And then if you're really just trying to optimize yourself and your life, you can incorporate adaptogens for that purpose. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next Wednesday.